percussion on a whole nother level, coming from my mind.
Free, the 2013 sports anime Free, is a project from Kyoto animation veteran Hiroko Utsumi, an animator and storyboard artist with credits on many of the studio's biggest titles such as Nichijou, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and Clannad. The anime story centers around a high school swimming club and the challenges that its members have to overcome to make it competitive. Like many high school sports anime, Free is, at its core, a sort of coming-of-age story. The audience gets to see the main members of the club grow as characters as they spend time together in and out of the pool and as they struggle with both swimming and the transition into adulthood. A Place Further Than the Universe, an original anime project from Atsuko Ishizuka, a long-time director at Studio Madhouse. A Place Further Than the Universe tells the story of 4 ordinary girls accomplishing extraordinary things in equally extraordinary places. The extraordinary places here being Antarctica. While the premise of anime girls going to Antarctica might sound somewhat farcical, the show's writing grounds the story in its believable yet also endearing cast. The story takes the appropriate steps to show that every accomplishment and every moment of character growth feels appropriately set up and earned. The final product ends up being as moving as it is inspiring, helped along by some well-timed humor and a heavy dose of pathos towards the end. Lupin III, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine. The venerable Lupin III franchise has attracted some of anime's preeminent talents across its many decades of existence, including the likes of Hayao Miyazaki in 1970's Castle of Cagliostro. The franchise stars the lovable and carefree thief Lupin and chronicles his exploits as he endeavors to stay one step ahead of the cops, except that it is not what Fujiko Mine is about. In ditching Lupin's typical light-hearted tone for a jazzy neo-noir feel and switching the focus of the story to Lupin's sidekick Fujiko Mine, director Sayo Yamamoto signals early on that The Woman Called Fujiko Mine has no intentions of being a typical Lupin story, both in tone and aesthetics. Kyousou Giga, an early work for director Rie Matsumoto, Kyousou Giga began its lifespan as a single-episode web animation in 2011. It would go on to spawn a TV anime, as well as a reimagining of the original Onna, but the common element between all versions of the anime is the director's signature hyperactive visual style. This is the project that put Matsumoto in the anime spotlight, and it is not difficult to see why. Watching Kyousou Giga for the first time is guaranteed to make an impression because it looks entirely unlike nearly everything else on the market. Bombastic action sequences, insane characters, and bold color choices make this a visual treat that's hard to forget. A Silent Voice. The breakaway success of Naoko Yamada's A Silent Voice catapulted her work into international acclaim, and when watching the film, it is not hard to see why it was so successful. The story is a harrowing one of flawed characters seeking redemption, and it asks stark questions about what it means to live with mistakes and what it means to move past them. A Silent Voice is not a movie interested in pulling many emotional punches either, and thanks to Yamada's characteristically stellar direction of character animation, many of the movie's pivotal scenes can feel painfully real. Yuri on Ice. The hugely popular Yuri on Ice is a 2016 sports romance anime from director Sayo Yamamoto, famous for her prior work on shows like Michiko and Hatchin and Lupin III, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine. Although Yuri opts out of some of the surrealist elements present in her past work in favor of a more grounded style, it still has an unmistakable character to it that made it stand out among audiences. For one, the show offers what feels like a surprisingly well-researched depiction of a competitive figure skating environment, and the tribulations that the characters go through while living in that world come across as grounded and believable. Helped along by some impressive skating animation, Yuri is a sports love story fans won't want to miss. Liz and the Bluebird. While some animators, specifically in the world of anime, prefer to specialize in spectacle and bombast, Naoko Yamada stands out on account of her laser focus on character acting through subtle body language. Liz and the Bluebird is perhaps the best example of this tendency in her work, as whole ranges of emotions are conveyed wordlessly through masterful character animation. The story itself is tragic, but also deeply inspiring, and while some viewers may find it slow, those who stick with it will be rewarded with one of the most moving romance stories the medium has to offer. It also feels like Yamada's most confident work as a director and leans heavily into the stylistic choices that make her anime so impressive. Michiko and Hatchin. From director Sayo Yamamoto comes a funky, sun-baked adventure story about femme fatale Michiko Malandro on a quest for her lost ex-boyfriend, alongside his supposed daughter Hana Morenos, aka Hatchin. Many of the aesthetic choices in the anime are remembered for their boldness. Michiko's fashion choices have made her something of an icon among fans, and the Latin American iconography and music give the show a distinct artistic vibe. The core of the show, of course, is the relationship between Michiko and Hatchin, and the audience gets to see it develop through the challenges that the two meet on the road to Michiko's boyfriend and Hatchin's father. The story deals with some rather poignant themes at times and also features some exceptionally endearing character moments. Kekkai Sensen. Director Rie Matsumoto has an eye for outlandish, high energy, and visually complex action sequences, as is perfectly exemplified in her project Kekkai Sensen, known in English as Blood Blockade Battlefront. Set in a dysfunctional New York City after a disaster sends the supernatural crashing into our reality, Blood Blockade Battlefront features dynamic battles between characters of mysterious power against villains of mysterious goals. The action-heavy setup of Kekkai Sensen is perfectly suited to Matsumoto's talents as a director. The battle sequences are dizzyingly directed and animated with exceptional craftsmanship by Studio Bones, and her signature use of color morphs fight scenes into sensory assaults that won't soon be forgotten. K-On! The greatest tragedy ever to befall anime communities was the widespread acceptance of the opinion that Naoko Yamada's K-On! Is nothing more than a worthless and vapid cute girls doing cute things show. In reality, it is an exceptionally well-constructed show with believable characters, an uplifting tone, and some truly excellent animation. Elements that elevate K-On! Above a typical cute girls doing cute things show are its grounded sense of setting, its well-defined character growth, and its sense of forward progress. Although the atmosphere of the anime is laid back, this is not a show where nothing happens. Our characters are doing things and going places, and as they learn along the way, the story becomes a surprisingly naturalistic portrait of their lives.